Hello everyone. In this video I would like to show you how you can make a hideable sidebar using HTML, CSS and plain JavaScript. So let's start by creating a file with that same name, hideable sidebar HTML. I'm going to keep everything in one file, but it's just for demonstration purposes, because under normal circumstances we would try to keep it more organized. So let's insert some boilerplate code here. Hideable sidebar. So this is the title. Let's go to the body of the HTML document. Let's define a main component here, but what we're interested in is what comes next. So the two parts, like the navigation part, let's call it sidebar, and the part that is, or the section that is used for viewing or reading or some kind of work. So let's call it work space. So let's go over to the head section here and let's try to style it a bit. So starting with main, background color, just to see where we are on the page, and let's make it fill the entire page. So height 100, viewport height, and width 100, viewport width. So let's see what it looks like. Okay, kind of as expected. We just don't want this margin all around it. So let's go to the body part and set margins to 0. Now it looks okay. And now let's go to the sidebar in the workspace. Maybe before we do that, let's change the display property here to flex. By default the flex direction is row wise, but let's make it explicit. So flex direction row and overflow X hidden. I'll try to explain later why it is so, but in this case it doesn't really matter, but there may be cases in which it will. So I'm putting it there just in case. Now let's define some root properties for the sidebar and for some of the elements here. So let's call it sidebar width. Let's make it 400. We're gonna add the units later. So and some transition properties, so it can go from one state to the other in a smooth manner. So 0.5 seconds is in, out. And now let's go to the actual sidebar. Let's change the background color to, let's say, this. And we're going to define minimum width using this property here. So we're going to have to calculate it actually. We're going to have to multiply it by 1 pixel to get 400 pixels. And the same for the maximum width. This way we kind of make sure that the sidebar always has the same width regardless of what's happening on the rest of the page. And now let's just maybe add this transition property here based on this, so we don't have to redefine it over and over and for different elements or different classes. So, okay. Now let's kind of copy it over here. And let's create another state for that, or another class, which is going to be called hidden. Background color, we can remove this. Transition, let's keep it. And as for this, we're going to change it to margin left, because we kind of want it to overflow to the left of the parent container so that we cannot really see it anymore. So just add a negative sign here to make it minus 400 pixels. Okay, so as for the workspace, let's change the color to yellow, and let's make it fill the rest of the available space inside the parent container, or the flex container in this case. So flex grow 1. Okay, so it fills it nicely. This is pretty much equivalent to saying width 100%, but let's just stick with flex grow for now at least. Alright, so now let's dive into some JavaScript. A very simple function to hide or show the sidebar. So we're going to say function hide or show sidebar. And first we're going to grab the sidebar, document, and query selector. There's only one element with that class name, so it's going to give us that element, sidebar. And now we're going to toggle this hidden class to hide it. So hidden. And now if we go to the console here and call this function hide or show sidebar, well, something happened, but not exactly what I was expecting to happen. I guess it just doesn't transition properly. It's actually transition props. Okay, so now it should be smooth. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. And so on and so forth. But ideally we would like to have some button here to, you know, either hide it or show it, depending on whether it's hidden or shown. So let's go over here and create a little div that will act as a button. So let's call it hide show button, and we're gonna style it a little bit. Position absolute to make sure that it stays in the left top corner. Background color maybe green, yellow, or something like that. Height, let's say 36 pixels, width 36 pixels as well, and maybe border bottom right radius 4 pixels. And when we put our mouse over the element, let's change the cursor to pointer, and also opacity to 0.9. Okay, so this is how it behaves so far. And also let's connect this function here to the onClick event. So now hopefully it can work. Yeah, it works as expected. But maybe it would be nice to have something like an arrow or whatever to just show or point to the left or to the right, depending on whether the sidebar is hidden or not. So let's try to implement that. We can use, for example, an SVG element here. Let's call it arrow. Let's give it a view box. Defined as follows, maybe from -10 to -10 in the other direction, to 120 and 120 respectively. So inside that we're going to have a polyline defined by some points, kind of like a triangle shape or an arrow shape. So let's say 50, 0, 0, 50, 50, 100. Okay, so we have it there. And let's style this arrow as well, or more like add transition or something like that to it. So arrow. So let's copy this. Actually, let's copy this transition so it behaves pretty much the same way as the sidebar. We're gonna need another state here, another class to define that it's reversed. The transition can stay here. We're just gonna have a transform here, rotate 180 degrees. All right, so maybe let's just add some padding here, like 4 pixels. Okay, so let's look at what we have and let's see what happens. Well, it works, but it doesn't turn the other way yet, because we have to add this part in our hide or show sidebar function. So let's grab this arrow as well. So we're going to say arrow, and we're going to have to toggle that reversed class as well. So we're going to put it here to apply it to the arrow, and now it works as expected. All right, so coming back to this part where we had overflow hidden, let's comment this out, and let's comment this out as well and see what happens. Well, you can actually see that, you know, the sidebar goes out of the main or the parent component here, or the parent element, right? So you can kind of see it there. It's like, you know, kind of leaking into space. But if you change overflow X to hidden, it looks actually better. So that would matter if you if you don't want to fill the entire page with this sidebar thing and this workspace, but maybe it's just a part of the page, so you may find it useful in that case. So let's bring it back to 0. As I said, in this case it doesn't really matter. So basically that's how it works, more or less. So I hope you enjoyed the video and that you found it useful. So hopefully see you, and bye.